Hi there, welcome to this week's market analysis. So as usual, what we're going to do over here is to quickly recap as to some of the events that have happened for the past week, and then we'll look into the current upcoming week's event. And of course, we're going to jump onto the charts and share with you the overall outlook and some of the opportunities that you want to keep an eye on. Right? So as of last week, the main interesting, I would say, event happens on Tuesday with the US CPI and core CPI coming in very hot and very much better as compared to the forecasted data. So that kind of sent the dollar strengthening from the start of the week, and that kind of set the tone for the dollar as well as most of the major pairs going forward. For the past week itself. And other than that, we don't really have much of the other news that is market moving. Okay, so in a way, after Tuesday's CPI, most of the dollar related major pairs kind of consolidated throughout the week after it. Okay, so that was kind of recap as to what happened last week. Now, if you take a look at this coming week, we're starting off it with a Japan holiday as well as the UK side. So if you're trading on Monday, just be a little bit careful. I think volatility will be slower, just because we have the UK bank holidays as well. And on Tuesday, we have the Canadian CPI coming in. Again, this is rather important because you have your CPI, median CPI, trim CPI as well, and CPI is basically related to inflation. So this particular event has the potential to create a wide and huge volatility in the market if the actual data comes in very much different from what the forecast data is. Okay, so keep an eye on that. For those of you who are interested in news trading, leveraging on the catalyst of such events, definitely you want to pay attention on the Canadian related currencies. And then on Thursday, of course, depending on where you are, for me it's on Thursday midnight, past midnight, 2 a.m. We have the FOMC statement and of course Fed's fund rates. So we can see over here the market consensus is that the Fed is going to continue to hike rate from 2.5, raising it to 3.25. Okay, I don't think there will be much of a surprise here, but what's more important would probably be at 2:30 a.m. over here. You can see FOMC press conference. Okay, and on the same day itself, this is always tentative. Okay, but we do have a BOJ press conference coming in, and as well as the term BOJ intervention, because the yen has obviously weakened significantly in relation to most of those currencies out there. Bank of Japan has yet to really start talking about rate hike. So this particular event is going to give the market some guidance, and I believe that there will be volatility coming in on yen related pairs. Okay, so overall, if you just take a look at what we have so far, I think this coming week is gonna be very wild, quote unquote wild, in terms of volatility, because there's just so many events that's happening and all of them are important. Okay, and a lot of them are actually congregating around Thursday, right? So after Japan, you can see that we have the SMB. Okay, same thing over here. We are expecting the SMB to do a rate hike, and then after that we have the Bank of England. Okay, same thing here. The market consensus is also a rate hike, right? So definitely a very eventful week. Okay, and that naturally would mean huge volatility in the market. Okay, so be very careful and be aware of all these events going in. Okay, on Friday, we do have a couple of Euro PMIs as well as the UK side. Okay, I don't think this is gonna be huge in terms of affecting the market, because most of the focus is definitely going to be on central bank statements. And on the weekend, okay, you want to be aware as well, because we have the Italian parliamentary election. Okay, and that's going to be important as well, because if you keep track of the fundamentals that's happening in Italy, as well as Euro, Okay, it's something that I mean, moving forward, whoever is going to be elected as president of Italy is not going to be having an easy job. Okay, handling the potential debt crisis over there. So definitely want to pay a little bit on that as well. Okay, so go and study and research a little bit into it if this is something that you're still not aware of. Okay, so that's a quick one in terms of the fundamentals of things and some of the events you want to keep an eye on. Okay, so with that, let's take a look at the technical charts over here. Okay, so as usual, we're going to start off with the dollar index. For me over here, I'm actually still maintaining a rather bullish outlook for the dollar going into the week. What we have is, of course, the CPI impulse push. And as I mentioned, the market basically consolidate for the remaining part of the week. And moving forward over here, if we can continue to get a small corrective pullback towards perhaps around 50 and 618 FIB areas, then I would expect one more pushback towards the previous high at around 110.80. Okay, but of course you want to keep an eye on how the market is going to develop here. And we have the FOMC coming in on Thursday, right? So if we're gonna kind of put things together in a very nice confluence, then it will be nice to see a very decent consolidation building up into FOMC. And ideally, FOMC is going to deliver a very hawkish tone from the statement and of course press conference, and that will continue to send the dollar upwards. Then that would really coincide beautifully with the technical analysis over here. Okay, so you also want to take note that if the dollar actually drops significantly and very strong in an impulsive manner, then of course we'll need to update our analysis along the way. Okay. So just a quick one for those of you who are subscribed to our Trading Those premium analysis. These are analysis that you'll be receiving on a day-to-day basis. So do keep an eye on those daily emails that I send out to you guys. Okay. So inversely on the euro dollar, okay, we are then looking for more downside, and you can see over here we have a very strong push. The market is basically in the consolidation area right now. If we can get a decent pullback correctively towards the 50 and 618, same thing over here, we'll be more interested in the downside for the euro, potentially looking at 9.860 as our target. Okay, of course, we need to keep track on how the euro dollar develop going forward, getting closer towards the 50 and 618 region. Pound dollar over here, for those of you who managed to kind of short it, okay, through this breakout of this little trend line over here, you want to manage that trade. So from an Elliott Wave perspective, there's a possibility that we might still see a little bit of downside, but for me, I think the room to the downside can be quite limited. We do have this 127 extension over here around 1.1315 area, and that would likely complete a bigger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And therefore, usually after a 5-wave count, we do expect a deeper 3-wave corrective move back towards this zone. So if you are looking at short opportunity, just be careful, okay, that we might get a decent bounce around that zone over there. So personally, I wouldn't suggest to be selling it if you do not have any current sell position, but if you have, just manage it along the way. Okay, of course, going forward, you can also start to look for maybe a short-term rejection or a short-term reversal trade on the pound dollar. Aussie dollar over here, we did get a very nice little reaction back to the bottom over here at 6685. So for now, I would be maintaining a rather neutral perspective, and I want to see how the market reacts off this bottom. Okay, so we have the channel bottom, we have the previous bottom over here, and if you pull up your RSI, you're going to see a little bit of a divergence here as well, which means lack of momentum. What the market can do, of course, it can develops a little bit more towards the downside in a very slow manner. We call this a crawl. If that's the case, I would actually be interested to look for at least a short-term reversal trade to the outside. Okay, From an overall trend perspective for Aussie dollar is as long as the market maintains below 6915, which is this level here, overall it's still on the bearish downside. But if you see a crawl pattern here, we can still take this up and see how the market develops from there. Okay, so same thing, I think this week here we probably need to give it a little bit more time at the beginning of the week. If you guys are following on the trading dose, okay, then just keep an eye on the daily emails that I sent out. Dollar CAD here is also at a certain key area. Okay, so you can see this channel over here. The market came close to the top of it. From an Elliott Wave perspective, we have from this bottom 1, 2, 3. That will be a bigger W, following X, and then of course here we are expecting at least a 3-wave push up. So short term within this week, this pullback here can develop. If you're a short-term trader, intraday trader, there is potential trade setups that you can potentially look into to take your sell trade with a target around 1.3130 towards 1.3085 as well, right? Back towards the 50 and 618 Fibonacci. So that's on dollar CAD. Okay, so really depends on are you short term or are you more of a swing trader? If you're a swing trader, then you will anticipate this to come down in a corrective manner first and then look for another buy trade at the bottom to the upside. Okay, so that's on dollar CAD, right? So for me, I'm suggesting to be a bit of a neutral side. Let the market maybe develop to give us a little bit more clarity in terms of which direction is it going to move forward and how the market is going to develop from here. Okay, dollar yen is developing a rather clear and straightforward structure at this moment, and therefore this would be perhaps one of the more obvious setup that you want to look up for the week. Okay, but as I mentioned, you want to keep an eye on the Bank of Japan intervention, of course FOMC. Both of this news is going to come in and had a direct impact on dollar yen. Okay, so over here from an Elliott Wave perspective on technical analysis, we do have a 1, 2, 3. It seems to be developing a wave 4 in a 3-wave structure over here as well, WXY. So somewhere around this zone would present a decent buy setup to take it to the 5th wave with an initial target at 145.85, right? I mean, you can definitely just focus on the technical setups to take a trade, okay? But understanding that this week here, as I mentioned, there's the Bank of Japan intervention and then there's FOMC coming in. You might want to adjust your risks according to that as well, because that might create, a huge swing in volatility on that particular event. Okay, so just be aware of it. But having said all this, the technical on the dollar yen is one of the clearest as of now. Gold, okay, so we were anticipating at least a decent reaction of 1680, but last week gold actually just broke down from there. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna just be selling it and rotate our buyers to bearish, but in fact, long term over here, nothing has changed. I'm still more interested in looking for a buy. The question is just more of like, do I get a clear buy setup, and where would I get involved in the buy? I wouldn't be too much of an interest in selling gold because of the fundamental and the macro outlook of it. So that's the reason why I've been sharing with you guys over here, as well as in all my sharings. I've always been saying that I'm more interested in buying gold. Okay, so we do had a break below 1680, but when gold price tags the low at 1653, it does give us a little bit of a reversal right now, a little bit of a V-shaped formation. So I would say going forward this week, if we can continue to see a little bit more upside where the market breaks back towards 1680, that's a little bit of a corrective structure here, I'll be actually very keen to get involved in the buy. Okay, obviously it's not going to be like 100% guaranteed that gold is going to move up, but as I mentioned, fundamentally and macro perspective, I'm actually more bullish on gold. Right. Equity side of things over here, what we can see is that I think S&P has a potential to break another low from a higher time frame perspective. But for short term, we want to at least see how it's gonna react around the zone, which we have around that 618 extension. We do expect a little bit of a bounce back towards this 50 and 618. So what we want to see is how it's market gonna develop. It's gonna go slow. Okay, there's a good chance this will come back down, break this entire low, and we then need to assess again when the market tags back at 3713. Okay, so if you're actually looking at long-term investment opportunity on the equity side of things, you need to at least be mentally prepared that even going into the last quarter of this year, the equities market can actually hit another low. So if you're looking at long-term investment, right, it's not about timing, getting the perfect timing in the market, but at least you still need to mentally prep up and say that, okay, if I'm going to get it now, and the equities market is going to drop, my portfolio or investment is going to see a little bit of a drawdown. But you need to be very, very comfortable with that, and perhaps you have certain plans that say that, okay, if the market were to drop a little bit more at a much better pricing, I'm gonna maybe invest another position in. Okay, so do a little bit of that prep, because from a macro perspective as well from a technical point of view, there's a good chance that the overall S&P market can actually break this previous low over here at 3635 zone. Okay, I'm not saying that it's gonna break it, depending on how the market price is gonna develop, but there's that good possibility it might. Okay, so just be mentally prepared about that. Good. Okay, so that's all from me in this week's video. I think this week's a little bit lengthy because there are just a little bit more information that I can talk about, and which I felt it's important. Okay, so I hope that also give you some layer of insights into the market. Okay, so that's all from me for this week's video over here. All the best to your trading and manage your risk, and I'll see you guys in the next one.